Sup, y'all? Welcome back to the Bon Iver discussion. I'm your host, Toilet Snake. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the motherfucking Big Fish podcast. How you doing out there? That's a rhetorical question. You can't answer me because this is a pre-recorded podcast, but I do have people who can answer rhetorical questions sitting here with me in this beautiful podcast today. First, I have my illustrious co-host with me for today's episode, Darren Eckert of Crime Dog and High on a Mountain fame. Darren, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Jake?
I'm doing pretty chill. I can't complain. But now we have the main event of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. The guest of today's Big Ol' Fish podcast. One of the only people I have ever met who can say why I left BuzzFeed and mean it. Put your hands together for BostWiki. BostWiki, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
Good. Now, where are you guys? Because I'm in New York.
I'm in Pennsylvania. We're both in Pennsylvania, actually. So New York, is that where you're based currently right now?
Correct, yeah.
How long have you been living in New York?
Ooh, 6 years now?
6 years. So like since the start of your YouTube career, pretty much.
Yeah, I went to school at the University of Kansas, and then after that, moved to New York City.
Oh, shit. Why'd you move to New York?
I wanted to live in New York.
Touche. Is it as all as it cracked up to be?
For me, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
What's your favorite part of New York, and what's your least favorite part of New York?
My favorite part of New York is the idea of New York, right? It's super diverse in both just people and thought, and there is a sense of anonymity. What's the word I'm looking for? Anonymity.
Yes.
That comes from a large, huge city that I enjoy. You know, nobody really cares what you're doing, and I don't really care what anybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the worst thing for a lot of people that live in New York would say that the transient nature of New York. So you end up meeting a lot of people that just can't hack it for whatever reason. So they're in the city for a year or 2, 3 years, and then they end up moving back home or to a different town, something different. So it's a lot of transient people, good people, right? But just they don't stay long.
Very come and go nature of the city.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. Is it like, do you know any of those people like personally that have been transient in New York City?
Yeah. I mean, I've met many cool people that, you know, came here either for school or wanted to do acting or thought they wanted to make a lot of money in investment banking, you know, whatever it is. And then decide, oh, the city's overwhelming, or I have a hard time connecting with people, or I feel isolated, or, you know, many people have many different reasons, and they just decide it's not for them.
Yeah, the New York thing.
Yeah.
So, BostWiki, you are a bit of a YouTube vet. I mentioned it previously, but you've been on YouTube for about 6 years, I believe, so kind of describe to me how it was starting out on YouTube and kind of how you got your start, you know, the basic interview question.
Yeah, I've been off and on YouTube for a while. I started making YouTube videos because I wanted to make videos. It was something that interested me. I studied history at college, and I didn't want to be a professor or a lawyer. So I thought, what can I do? I like to make things, so I'll try to teach myself how to make videos. Started doing that, started uploading them, and never really had too much success on YouTube early on, but had enough, I guess, interesting people watch my stuff that offered me opportunities. And so I was able to get a gig over in PBS in Kansas City. And then from there, I moved to New York because I wanted to live in New York. And then BuzzFeed picked me up. And then I kind of had a hiatus because BuzzFeed had a huge non-compete clause. And then after that, you know, I worked at Bloomberg, and once I shifted to Bloomberg, I was able to do my own thing much more in my free time, and that's when I started to kick back into YouTube.
Nice. So you've been around the block, some might say.
Yeah.
Working at BuzzFeed, because that's kind of like a big thing. What was it like? Because back in the day, BuzzFeed was like public enemy #1 to YouTube, because all the big YouTubers are making funny commentary videos on BuzzFeed. What was it like working for them? Because that's something that intrigues me a lot. I don't know the inner workings of that place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember having a a small DM conversation with PewDiePie back in the day.
Oh,
And I was like, you know,
okay.
I assure you, not everybody hates you. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, just keep going.
you were his man on the inside. Holy shit.
Yeah, but you know what it was? It was a pragmatic decision, which is that they paid the bills and allowed me to make videos and get better at the craft, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for me, there was a utility that, you know, they were willing to give me a job, and I wasn't making any money off of YouTube. So,
You worked at BuzzFeed first, or like where'd you start off at?
first, I mean, I've had many, shall we say, minimum wage jobs. I've done all kinds of things, but in terms of career, first real break was working at PBS in Kansas City for about 6 months or so, and then BuzzFeed.
All right, and how was it at PBS? Like, what did you do there?
As a video journalist, they just needed somebody that was pretty good in making little videos and going to interview whatever was going on in Kansas City. You know, it was a more old school vibe, so they didn't really have anybody that understood. I mean, this is, I don't know, 2014-ish. They didn't really have anybody that understood social media very well, or like uploading to YouTube or Facebook, so I was able to get in that way.
Was it like a culture shock going from PBS to BuzzFeed, where BuzzFeed is very kind of like hip and updated with all the social media presences?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve going, I mean, just on multiple fronts. I never worked at a company that large and that moved that quickly, and that was as full of, for as much as people want to hate on BuzzFeed, and there's many things to hate on it for, it was definitely a gravitational pull for many creative people in just all different walks of life, regardless of their political views or whatever, right? They're all there to, like, because they have an interest in making stuff. And so definitely, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, whoa, there are people much more talented and much more clever, or just inherently more creative, I felt, than me, and it was interesting to be around.
Do you have any interesting stories, or perhaps horror stories, from working at BuzzFeed?
No, I mean, it was a formative period of my life. So I think when I was there, it was interesting because when I was there, it was kind of the heyday of it being very popular on YouTube, in the sense that it was always on the trending page, and it was, everybody was watching these. Well, we tried Frappuccinos for the first time, or we tried Lunchables for the first, you know, that kind of just cookie cutter, lowest common denominator content.
The classic videos.
Right, the classic videos. And at the time, Zay Frank, who was kind of a YouTube legend on his own, but he was the head of BuzzFeed Video at that time. And as much as he's a genius and there's many good things to say about him, and from a business point, he ran it very draconian in terms of, like, you cannot appear in any work outside of BuzzFeed. You cannot make any videos outside of BuzzFeed. You know, I don't care if your friend has a student film at NYU. If you appear in it, you're axed. And they did that to people I knew. They just straight up fired people for breaching those non-competes.
Is there any specific reason for having a non-compete compete clause in an industry like that?
So, I mean, they've radically changed that policy since I've left. I mean, I think It's a totally different world. Partly, I'm sure, due to just they have to, you know, the landscape changes. The reason at the time was that Zay Frank, I think, understood, okay, well, we have a lot of talented people working for us, and he wanted to create the old school studio model in Hollywood, where, you know, in the 30s and 40s, actors and actresses were kind of signed to the studio itself. They weren't independent, so the studio then had control over their actors and actresses and would tell them to appear in this film or that film. And it was a way for the studios to rein in the star power of their individual talent, so the talent then couldn't just leverage, you know, their publicity that they had gained off the studio's distribution power and then leave the studio. And Defranco felt the same way, which is, well, I'm giving you this big BuzzFeed platform. You're a nobody. You're going to appear in all these videos. Millions of people are going to watch them. I don't want you just then turning around and saying, well, I want a ton more money. Or just
okay.
Does that make sense? It was a very business. It was methodical.
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
And I, as much as it's draconian, at the same time, like, I understand if you're in that position why you're making those decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense business-wise, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how interesting that is, but that's kind of the back mechanics of how BuzzFeed was run.
That's pretty interesting. I do actually say, I've never worked for BuzzFeed, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Darren's ever worked for BuzzFeed either.
You also work for Yahoo, too, right?
Yes.
How was that? Like, what'd you do there?
Kind of a little everything. Mainly reporting and managing a lot of people, managing different teams, managing a social media team, managing a video production team.
Oh, wow. Seems like you did a lot.
If you want to get into the kind of background thinking of media again, cut me off if this is boring. But
this is interesting, bro. I want to hear.
I
want to get all the
Trust
details,
me,
bro.
I feel like I'm getting educated. I feel like I missed all this in school.
Yeah, they don't tell you any of this in school. So what happened was Yahoo as a brand was kind of failing. Huffington Post was kind of failing. Engadget, a lot of these, let's say, B-tier digital media companies that had kind of gotten lapped in the last 5 to 7 years got together. They were all bundled together into one big company called Oath, and then they were going to kind of cross-pollinate. So whatever content was made under this Oath company would then be distributed through Huffington Post, through Yahoo, through Engadget, right? It was a way to combine these companies together and then leverage them all at once. And that big package, Oath, was then sold to Verizon, and Verizon created Verizon Media. So Verizon is the parent company, and then Verizon Media controls Huffington Post, Yahoo Finance, Engadget, AOL. And so, yes, I worked for Yahoo, but my ultimate employer, Verizon Media, right? And then I was brought on when Verizon made a big capital injection. So they bought Yahoo, AOL, Huffington Post, this big conglomerate, and they decided to sink a lot of money into making a 24-hour financial news show that would be live streamed and building out their what they call VOD, video on demand, so videos that go out on social platforms. So they had a big investment, and they were doing a lot of hiring, and I just had a background in growing digital media companies and making content and reporting stories. So that's how I wound up there.
All right.
I didn't know that we had such a high-level media consultant on the podcast. This is crazy.
I know what I'm talking about when it comes
to
I know most people in New York City media.
So, getting off the topic of the New York media and getting on the topic of your personal YouTube, you've been on the platform for a while, and you've made videos ranging from the science of smoking, PewDiePie's philosophy, deep fake pornography, the dangers of Pokemon Go, and sleeping in some of the cheapest New York City hotels. What makes a topic interesting enough for you to make a video on?
That's a good question. There are I should caveat it in that there are many interesting topics that I have in my mind that I am not either clever enough or smart enough to make a video about. And often, so the disparity in terms of, you just listed a bunch of videos that seem wildly different. Each one, I'd say, was a concept or an idea that interested me, and then also met what I thought was I could make this a visual story. I thought I could figure out a way to tell what I wanted to tell visually. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
But if inherent in that question is why are they so all over the place, I have no good answer. It's a it's a problem I often ruminate about, which is, man, I wish I had a more cohesive channel, but
you're just making stuff that you want to make, man.
Yeah.
A variety channel, some might say.
Yeah, generously.
Good job not making a segue yet again. But it's very important that I tell you about today's sponsor of the episode, Me, I'm my own sponsor. And I'm here to tell you my new album, Super Jail, comes out March 6th. Now you might be thinking, Jake, I don't want to wait that long for some amazingly experimental, hard-hitting, yet emotionally harmonic electronic bangers you're going to drop. Well, don't you worry, you impatient asshole. If you really got a passion for crashing, my new single off Super Jail, Royal Jelly, is out now on all major streaming platforms. Give it a listen before it's gone. Remember, Super Jail by Jake Joseph is available everywhere for a limited time only on March 6th. And Royal Jelly is out now under number 13 Records. You can get more information, my entire discography, and official merch at my website, jakejosephmusic.com, or visit my Bandcamp page. Okay, back to the podcast. You're a bit of a on the field for YouTube, like with your biggest video, the sleeping in the cheapest in New York City apartment or hotel, sorry. What was like a video that had some of the worst side effects from making? Because I remember at the end of the video you were showing your bed bug welts from the hotel. Ooh. If there are any other stories like that or something crazy that happened after the video.
Yeah, yeah, I did get eaten alive by those bed bugs. That one sucked for like a week or two. Which is funny because I thought I had escaped scot-free. And it was only literally while editing that video about maybe 24 or 36 hours later that I was like, what is going on?
They were like some gnarly bites too. Like you were showing them. They were like big.
Yeah. So there was that. The deepfake one, funny enough, I just did because I was like, well, I wanted to talk about deepfakes, right? And my thinking behind it was, well, what's the narrative arc? Oh, I know, I'll just deepfake myself. F it. And some people at Verizon saw this video, and I got called into some meetings where I was having to explain, like, well, so, why are you having gay sex on this video as an employee?
Is this like the first question they started off with, like, why are you having gay sex?
They opened the meeting with that.
They were much more diplomatic and political about it, but I had some explaining to do, I suppose, and that was a headache in terms of just generally companies don't like their employees doing those kinds of things. Rogue.
Being seen in gay sex. That was one of the things you said in the video. You're like, this may ruin some parts of my career, and got Verizon a little suspicious of you.
Yeah, I mean, big companies are just inherently risk adverse or kind of PR adverse, right? So they.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it was what it was, but I was just like, yeah, okay.
Mad respect for that, because you suffered for the art, some might say.
Well, thank you.
I've seen throughout your videos, spanning the many years of your genuine passion and love for YouTube, talking about many different YouTubers like PewDiePie and H3H3. And I'm curious, like, what are some YouTubers that you watch, whether that be back in the day or still continue to watch?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I mean, to me, YouTube's probably a little bit like music, right? Where I'll go through phases where I get really into a band or a genre. I just feel like emo for 2 months, right? Or like, oh, I feel like hip hop. Doesn't matter, So right now, what am I watching? There's a channel called Kraut I really like. He's an Austrian guy. I don't know if you heard of him. Kraut.
Oh, I have. Oh yeah, I watched.
He does excellent videos. He totally changed up his style, and his more recent style is really, really good. Which is, I think, a take from Brain for Breakfast, which was a kind of an older YouTuber. He passed away. I'm not sure why, but he had that same visual aesthetic. Let's see. There's also Polymatter is another one that I like following. Polymatter. Polymatter. Those are like newer, still growing channels. I mean, then there's classics like Nerd Writer I've loved forever. I mean, Vlog Brothers will always have a special place in my heart. They really hooked me on YouTube. What else? CPG Gray, way back in the day. I mean, he never uploads anything anymore, but, Phil Defranco I followed forever. PewDiePie I followed forever. I was really into him in his most hated days. I thought that was his best work. I'm not really a gamer, so when he moved back to being more into games and just interacting with his subreddit, I checked out. But I have a real appreciation for him. There's Psych IRL. She does really good psychology videos. I mean, I can go on and on, but there you go.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that you're a man who enjoyed Casey Neistat. Is my guess correct?
You know, it's funny. Yes and no. So I followed him up until... I remember the first time I watched a video of his was I was in a hostel somewhere in Texas. I think I was 19, and he had maybe 100,000 subscribers. And then I was like, oh, he's doing really interesting, cool stuff. And I followed him all the way up until the vlog, and then at the vlog, I again just kind of checked out because it became less interesting to me. But I mean, I admire him. I respect what he's done. I respect the audience he's built. I think he's very innovative and original. But I haven't watched him in a meaningful way in probably many years now.
Okay, I say that because your editing style in your earlier videos was kind of Casey Neistat-esque.
Yes. So he had prior to the vlog, he would use this kind of top-down stop motion, right, to tell a story. So he would use you actually saw very little of him in his earlier videos. It was voiceover and then top-down stop motion to tell a story. And I related to that and basically just wholesale lifted that because it was the easiest way I knew how I could mimic to make videos. I didn't study film or anything. I studied history, and then I was poor like him, so I didn't have any equipment or anything. I had a little point-and-shoot camera, and then I built like my own little PVC rig and just use like a microphone, and that was like, okay, well I think I can do it this way, like the way this guy's doing it. And so that's how I got into making videos, because I didn't understand After Effects. I didn't know how any of that worked. So yeah, he had a big influence on me in like okay, I can copy this, and I think figure out how to make a story from his style.
Mr. Neistat was definitely a YouTube pioneer, to say the least.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really glad. It's funny because I think his early work was so good, and he had such a small audience relative to how big the vlog made him. Yeah, and I think most people associate him with the vlog and kind of this high rolling, like flying over the place, rock star-esque figure.
Yeah.
But his early work, and even prior to that, when he was working with his brother, is fascinating to me. And I definitely think he was super innovative to the platform, but maybe not for the reasons most people think.
Formative years for the platform that we know as YouTube. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any other YouTubers or any other content creators that really inspired the way you made videos, or how you made videos, or how you approached making videos?
Yeah, Vlog Brothers. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, since they're like old now, and I don't think anybody really watches them. The John and Hank Green.
Yes.
So they probably had the biggest impact on me of all time in terms of their thought process. Their thought process just in terms of thinking about the world and the way they communicate ideas, and their integrity that they moved throughout their entire career on YouTube. I admire a great deal. But they used to do this little video series called Thoughts from Places, and they would end up just being somewhere in Montana or Chicago or wherever, Alabama. And again, they would do these voiceovers where they would just talk about thoughts from whatever that place was. You could YouTube it if you were curious. They haven't done them in years, but those had a huge influence on me as well. And now that I pointed out, if you were to go watch these Thoughts from Places that John and Hank Green used to do in like 2011, 2012, you would be like, oh, yeah, BostWiki is totally liberated this concept.
All right, I got some watching material after this podcast goes off the air.
Same here.
So, like you've said, you've been on the platform for a while. You've seen the changes that YouTube has made, whether that be for better or for worse, mostly for worse. But I'm curious, through your eyes, how do you see YouTube progressing as a platform? Like, from the early days of the broadcast yourself nature of the platform to now becoming this more corporate thing. Where do you see the conclusion, or if there is even a conclusion, like where's YouTube going to go in the future?
Oh man, I have no idea. I'm bad at predicting the future. I have no idea. I mean, a testament to my inability to predict it was I started making videos and like very early on, and monetization was just like free flowing and everything was all good. I then stopped making videos because I go to work for Buzzfeed for several years, and when I come back to starting making videos, now no video ever gets demonetized. There's all these rules in place. They want to age restrict half my videos. It's just a totally different landscape, and I'm like, oh, I missed out on the. I can't get a single video monetized anymore. Like I should have been making videos for myself this entire time.
Yeah, it was just like a huge bomb went off. Like at one point, there's like the good old day in YouTube where everyone, felt like we all got along back then, and then now, like that Kendall Jenner commercial happened, and
the Pepsi commercial, the famous Pepsi commercial.
Right.
Do you think that YouTube is ever gonna, kind of loop back around, like circle back to being again like the broadcast yourself, like not as corporate as it once was?
No.
Never.
No.
Yeah, that's probably true.
There's too much money now in the system.
Oh yeah, it's a huge conglomerate, like multi-million dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, the days when it was broadcast yourself with a shitty little webcam, just having the goofs.
Right.
I'm curious. I've been asking a couple YouTubers about this, but because usually people don't have like a natural segue to talk about this, but what's a comment on one of your videos that's been living in your head for rent-free?
I don't know, because the real truth of it is I upload videos and then never look at them again. I don't read a single comment. I don't look to see the likes or dislikes. I don't look at anything. And two reasons. Generally, I feel like I have a great ability to displease everyone with my opinions. That liberal people are generally displeased about my thoughts, and conservative people are generally displeased about my thoughts whenever I wade into any sort of personal opinion on things. So I just take it from both sides, and it's like, all right. And then in terms of like generally looking at the content, I struggle if it's let's say that sleeping in that cheap Chinatown hostel. I mean, by the time I finish editing it, I'm so displeased generally with it. I just want to be finished with it. Yeah. I don't really want to go back and look at it, because then all I see is like, oh, I could have done this better, or that was kind of rubbish. And so I just try to move on and just keep going. I mean, there's certainly drawbacks, because then I have no feedback loop in terms of like, oh, I really messed up here. I just miss that if a bunch of people are like, yo. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. That's what a bunch of YouTubers say, to not look at the comments, to save your mental health from the ravages of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, social media is fascinating, because I'll speak for myself, which is that whether it's a YouTube comment, I mean, I've never commented on a YouTube video in my life, but I imagine it's the same for whether you're tweeting or posting something on Instagram, which is that, social media is a snapshot of how you feel in that moment, and not necessarily how I think, right? So I'll say something, and it'll be how I feel about something in that moment, but it won't actually be what I think about it often. Whether that's 2 hours later or 48 hours later, I'll look back and be like, I don't know if I actually think what I said about earlier. If that's really
so true.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so I try not to, what even this person is saying something really negative about me, it may not be what they actually think. It could just be how they feel in the moment.
That's a really good way to look at it. I never thought of it like that. It is kind of like just like a snapshot of that moment. It's everything up to it, and then you just can't. That's just how it is, and it's on the internet. And if you feel differently, oh well, that's just how it is now.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. I like that.
I mean, you got me curious though. What the other people you've asked, what do they generally say?
It's usually like a comment that when they think about it, the ones that really stick in people's heads are the ones that are true, and they like, because usually the comments are just kind of like, oh yeah, it sucks, ass, just like kind of stupid stuff like that. But the comments that are true and things that they really are like insecure about are like really what hit them. Like someone told me that they're like kind of one thing that they were editing a video, and one particular part like they had like a stutter or something. Their stutter came out a little bit, and they didn't want to edit it out because it worked so well with the sentence. And a comment pointed out, he's like, hey, like something about your stutter. I forget what the exact one is, but they told me like, yeah, that's been living in my head for quite a long time because I'm very insecure about my stutter. And it's always like the true ones that stick with you the most.
Right, yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, if I were to ruminate, I could definitely see, I think many years ago, I don't know if this would be the case anymore, but if people were to say, oh, you're just a Casey Neistat ripoff or copycat, I could see them, yeah, I would like want to push back at it because there's like a hint of truth there, right? Like that would probably get at me because I would say like, yeah, maybe aesthetically, but my ideas or what I'm talking about are radically different than Casey Neistat, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, absolutely. The clone mentality of YouTube is kind of real shitty. Like if someone makes a video with voiceover, like, oh, copying Casey Neistat. Oh, you're a copy.
Right. And it's like, I feel like I take much more controversial stances than Casey Neistat.
Casey Neistat, man.
But I mean, all love.
Mad respect. Yeah, all love, absolutely. Mad respect. So I'm curious, BostWiki, what are some other, hobbies or stuff that you don't make videos about that you have like a real big passion and interest for?
Oh, I have a real big passion for music. I like to kind of write songs and play guitar. I used to play in a band in high school, and then in college I just play shows by myself.
Oh, well, lucky for you, this is a music podcast. I don't even think I mentioned that, but this is primarily like a music thing. Go off. Just talk to me about music, man. Go off.
Well, I'm not actually that good at talking about myself, what would you like to know? I'm not.
All right, let's start with.
I'm a deeply introverted person. I should
recently.
Let you know.
Oh, don't worry, we both are. Recently, what have you been listening to?
What have I been listening to? I've been listening.
Here, how about this? What's your album of 2020? Let's start with that.
Album of 2020. Let me think. I'm sure I'm gonna say something, and then 30 minutes later, be like, "No, that was a mistake."
And be like, "No."
See, it's the snapshot of how you feel in that moment.
Yeah, boom. It all comes around.
That's fair. I mean, I want to lean towards the 1975 album just because I like the band, although I wasn't that impressed with that album.
Didn't that album? It got delayed like 45 times. Before its release, right? Yeah.
I feel like half the album was out in singles before.
Yeah, it was. It was like, I think like they released, correct me if I'm wrong, I think like 8 singles or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was something like that. But yeah, they pretty much released the album before. So was it worth the wait? You say no?
No, I think I was probably slightly underwhelmed by the time they released the album.
What's your favorite 1975 album?
Ooh. Yeah. Second one might be better. First one, they're tied to moments in my lives. So, I guess first one. I gotta go with the first one.
The classic.
Yeah, classic. 1975.
What else you been listening to? What else you been bumping?
Some like random obscure Japanese bands. Let's see, there's one called Indigo La End and another one called Asian Kung Fu Generation. Digging those 2 bands. And then there's this British band called Fickle Friends that like nobody I guess has heard of, but I think they're really good. I'm not quite sure why they're not bigger. To be honest, their production's really good.
Like genre wise, what kind of music?
What kind of music are they, or what kind of genre?
Yeah. Yeah, what kind of music do they make?
Yeah, well, whatever you would consider that kind of 1975 genre.
Like alt rock pop type
Yeah,
thing?
alt rock pop. Their lyrics are pretty superficial, but they have good melodies.
Oh, yeah. Production-wise can, like, make a track.
Yeah, they have a lot of great bops. This band called Fickle Friends. You should check them out just after this. I'd be curious.
I'm looking. They have an album called You Are Someone Else, and the album cover, very 80s throwback aesthetic. They're actually a really good album cover.
Have this whole vibe, aesthetic, sound that I dig.
Adding that right now. Sweet, I got all this listening and watching material for after the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, you have a great taste in music, because I was watching your videos the other day, and I was just chilling to the fucking outro music and stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, music's super important to me. I've shot myself in the foot many times. Most of my videos, I feel like I make no money from YouTube, because either they're demonetized due to the content, or I'll just be like, no, I want this song in it. Forget it.
Yeah, the copyright claim.
Yeah, I just let it get claimed.
You're like, yeah, fuck it. I don't need money for this. I want to put this song in.
Right, so, yeah.
That's what sucks, and usually it's just like a small like snippet of something that just ruins the whole thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like...
Yeah, no, because you put that song in, the UMG made that entire video, so they get all the revenue, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Kind of the entire bloody thing. It's absurd.
So, what other kind of music do you listen to? Because I like talking about music.
What other kind of music? I mean, I will forever be a big John Mayer fan, just because.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's a great musician and a great songwriter. I have immense respect.
He's a fantastic guitar player, man. John Mayer is, like, really good.
Oh,
but on top of his, I mean, he's a phenomenal guitar player. But not just like on the electric. He's very good with this like syncopation and building songs around just himself and like an acoustic guitar. And like his early days, again, before he was that famous, you can go find like tapes, because he started out in Georgia, in Atlanta, and there's lots of little like live shows of him just playing the acoustic guitar. It's quite impressive.
All right. Damn. All right.
Is that what made you want to learn guitar? Because I remember you said that you learned how to play guitar.
Yeah, no, I discovered John Mayer later. I got into guitar when I was in middle school. So let's see. That would be what got me into music was like Eric Clapton and Cream, Jimi Hendrix, the whole 60s, 70s, Led Zeppelin,
The classics, yeah, absolutely.
The Yardbirds. Like I can go deep into the weeds, I guess, but that was the kind of birth of my interest in music and guitar.
Do you still actively play guitar?
Yeah, I mean, to as you said, it's like a hobby, or just relax or do something else for a couple hours.
Okay. Do you have a secret musical pseudonym that you've been releasing music under for the past couple years or something like that?
No, I guess subconsciously, you're forcing me to think about it. The after college, right when college was ending, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I got into a very much panic mode, and that's when I started like, okay, I need to learn how to make videos. I'm gonna try to make videos. I think I can somehow make this work and make a career job out of this, and I was in a very much, I need to figure this out, and I didn't really feel safe until, like, let's say BuzzFeed was employing me, and I was like, okay, I can like not starve. Like, I have a skill set that will make me money. Yeah. And at that point, right in my early 20s, I've kind of put everything aside to make sure I could survive off of a skill set, and music then took a backseat, and if that makes sense, right? So
yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of a depressing reality of adulthood.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how it is, man.
So you've hopped around from company to company. Are you currently at Bloomberg, or like what are you doing currently besides YouTube?
Oh, I'm still at Verizon Media.
Oh, Jesus. And how is that at the moment?
it's a big media company. It's full of people and agendas, you know.
All right, we get the signals you're flashing. Okay.
I mean, it's fascinating. It's such a small world because BuzzFeed and Verizon Media just did a deal, right? So Verizon,
Really?
quote unquote, sold Huffington Post to BuzzFeed, but in exchange, it was a stock swap. So, but Verizon ended up with a big chunk of BuzzFeed's stock. So they're all slowly merging, and you know,
They're all in cahoots. It's all connected.
yeah, 100%. I mean, Vice bought Refinery 29, Vox bought New York Mag, and then Lair Hippo, which is the big VC capital machine that backs a lot of these companies. Lair Hippo was friends with Arianna Huffington and Jonah Peretti, who they all started Huffington Post together, and then Jonah Peretti left to go found BuzzFeed. Arianna Huffington went to go, cash out with her money. Lair Hippo started the VC. He then invested in BuzzFeed. But at the same time, his son and him started Now This News and all those channels. So it's like all interconnected in a way that I don't think most people appreciate.
Yeah, and in the one video you were talking about how BuzzFeed was somewhat acquiring and all this stuff, and you're talking about a lot about Vox and like, is Vox going down the toilet or like what's going on with them?
Yeah, Vox. I remember that.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can only. I don't have their financial papers, but I remember. So BuzzFeed, for instance, just as an example, they were rolling high in, let's say, 2017-ish, and they had wanted to IPO. They had wanted to go public. And for a variety of market forces, that didn't happen. And they were forced to then cut jobs and streamline things and figure out how they were going to make money. And during that, the kind of initial big players left. So Zay Frank ejected from BuzzFeed Video, that side, and that had been his baby. And Ben Smith ejected from BuzzFeed News, and that had been his baby. And we're now seeing a similar thing happen to Vox, where Ezra Klein ejects and Matthew Iglesias ejects. And to me, it might indicate, perhaps Vox had this idea, maybe we're going to IPO, we're going to hit these profit goals. We totally missed them. We now need to pivot. And generally it just means perhaps they're in financial trouble or there's now going to be a much longer game to financial success, and the initial founders want to do something else.
All right, yeah, I was just interested because a lot of big terms I had no clue about being thrown, but
yeah, I mean, another problem is that these kind of startup digital media companies have experienced unionization too at the same time, which there's pros and cons to like unions in media, but again, they act as a drag on the overall profitability of the company. And when the company is still relying mainly on VC money, right? They're not actually profitable. They're just borrowing money on the hope that they will next year be profitable. This gets increasingly difficult when the VC says, well, we're not going to loan you any money because, you just had half your staff unionized and now they want even more money, but you're not even making us money. And it becomes very complex and just more difficult.
You seem like you know the ins and outs of business type. Does that help you in the field that you're in, being very business savvy?
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a universal truth that I guess I realized somewhere along the line, which is that if you can show your employer that you're making them money, you have a better chance at keeping your job.
Yeah.
Right?
The basics of a business. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the better you understand the economics and the market forces of your industry, the better you can position yourself to, one, sincerely trying to do the right things to keep your team or the people you manage or your section or your vertical or your wing in the company profitable, right?
Yeah.
And then, up that chain of command when they're looking downward saying, who should we get rid of? What's not doing well? You know, if you're able to be like, well, no, this is making money, or this is the projection here. It's just beneficial. But I don't think that's particular to media. I think it's just a kind of fact of life.
Yeah, if you're smart, they keep it around. I like that.
Yeah, I thought the story about Tumblr you told was hilarious. How they had like a whole division there or something, and then the one day they're just gone.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, Tumblr is part of this big, Goliath conglomerate called Oath. So it was Tumblr, AOL, Yahoo, Huffington Post, all been together, right? And that was sold to Verizon, and Verizon was just like, wow, Tumblr is costing us a ton of money every month. That they basically sold it for $2 million or some joke, just because it was costing them millions and millions of dollars a month in operating costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you go down the elevator one day, and they have 600 people in this huge building in New York, and the next day, well, everybody's gone. It's like, oh, ta-ta.
They were like a huge platform at one point. Like, I think that someone bought them for, I think around the 13 million range. I'm not sure the exact number. And then a couple years later, they were sold for, like you said, $2 million. Like, they just went down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a variety of reasons. Probably just
absolutely
bad decisions by different kind of executives throughout its history.
Tumblr might unfortunately be down and out, but I think another thing that might have to be down and out is the podcast. We're coming to a close, and BostWiki, I want to ask you one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, all good.
So, I want to know, if you were forced to make a new YouTube channel, like if YouTube said, all right, enough of this guy, enough of this BostWiki thing, delete your channel.
Man, they say that, they basically say that to me all the time.
So, let's say they pulled the trigger, they're like, all right, we're going to do it, he's out. What would you do right now in the situation? Where would you go?
Is that so I could not make another YouTube channel?
YouTube is off the table.
I guess I'm going to TikTok.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, well, just a full circle all the way to that question you asked earlier in this podcast, which is, do you think YouTube will ever go back to that kind of humble beginnings of just people talking to the camera and freewheeling? And I said no. I mean, at the moment, I think TikTok is that landscape for a lot of people to just kind of make stuff with a really low cost or low risk to their reputation or to their financial line.
I could see that, yeah.
Absolutely. Nice. Very insightful podcast, this one. I learned a lot in this podcast. Usually I don't learn in these podcasts, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, yeah. Education. There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. BostWiki, thank you for stopping by my little corner of the internet. I really appreciate it. This was fun. I like this.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So, BostWiki, before I cut you off the hook of this Big Fish podcast, what do you have going on? Where can people find you? What do you got going on? This camera, and this camera.
Go follow me on YouTube. youtube.com/BostWiki. There, I'm sure I'll continue to talk about the media, but there are 2 videos in the background I'm trying to work on. One is about vitamin D and opiates, which is fascinating, to me at least. And the other is about a hostage crisis in Germany in the 1980s and the way the media handled this, which is wild.
Just, if you guys like interesting things at all, if you ever just want to learn something, watch out BostWiki. It's extreme, just deep dives into these interesting topics. It's really, really cool.
Very informative. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you guys.
Like Darren said earlier, it's I'm learning. It's crazy. I'm learning and having fun. That doesn't work like that.
That's nuts. I'm entertained, and I'm learning how to defend myself against the media. That's great.
All right, real quick before we go, that's one of the most important videos that might have been uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah, shout out to the Chris D'Elia video, man. That
video is fire.
That's gonna be some people's Bible one day.
Thank you. That's the goal. There's a lot of bad people that get screwed by the media, and it's fine. But there's, and I'm not saying I'm in no opinion on Chris D'Elia, but just I've been in this business long enough that it's like being the DA, right? And the system is incentivized to just like win cases, and inevitably you're gonna lock up some people that are innocent, and they're just poor and have no defense. And the same thing is with the media. And so, it's just I would like people to have a better understanding of what they're up against.
It's a really informative video, and I do agree with there, and I do think that at some point that's going to be a video of contention that people return to, like, oh, this is happening, let's check out this video and see why, type thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, no problem. But BostWiki, thank you for coming. I do appreciate it. You too, Darren. Thank you for sitting in.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
If everyone has their final words out, then thank you for stopping by the podcast. You listening with my ear in your earbuds or my voice in your earbuds, whatever's going on. If you're on a boat, a plane, a train, wherever you're listening to it, it's a cool place. It's on YouTube. You could be watching it there. You could be watching it on major streaming services. And the Big Fish Podcast. BostWiki, thank you for stopping by. Darren, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. So, as long as you watch BostWiki's YouTube videos and, learn how to defend yourself from big media, then you're good to go. So, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And have a pleasant day.